Hey there, let's talk about creation stories. So when I read through some of your reader responses, I saw a few common themes. One of the most prevalent one was the use of animals. Number two, good and evil, absolutely. Number three, the punishment of women. Number four, punishment of curiosity. And lastly, the expectation of obedience by the gods, and then how these gods react to when they're disobeyed. So let's talk about those a little bit more. Okay. Hey there. So the animals, they're really interesting because they appear in lots of creation stories. However, I can't see a whole lot of use for them. Yeah, they were there when the world began. In the Iroquois story, they did help create the world to some degree. And in the Abrahamic story, they didn't really do anything except exist. So while it's a cool and interesting similarity, there's not much to it. Good versus evil exists in these stories in a lot of interesting ways. Yeah, absolutely we have Flint and Sapling. But I think the more interesting story is between Sky Woman and Sky Man. So they're both up in the heavens, and one day Sky Woman finds out she's pregnant. And Sky Man gets mad. I don't think we have enough information to figure out why he's mad. Maybe she was cheating. I'm not sure. Maybe there never even been a pregnancy. Who knows? So then she also, though, is looking out that tree hole. Remember the tree came out and there was a hole. She was looking down and she was punished, basically kicked down that hole for looking out. So we're not 100% sure which one of the things made Skyman mad, but we know he's mad. And so that's how she ended up on Earth. So then we have to look at the Abrahamic story. Of course, we have good and evil there too. So we kind of know, though, that it's a little bit more unknown, right? So we have the Garden of Eden. We have God, who's absolutely the good guy, right? So then we also have this kind of unknown evil, basically the serpent, who most people say is a manifestation of the devil, right? Okay. So the serpent really represents evil here. And of course, Eve took the apple. Now she also has kind of facilitated the fall of man. So now they can't be in the garden anymore. So now we have God who's good, the snake who's real evil, and men who are flawed. That's so interesting. So, okay. One other thing that's really, really interesting is in this dichotomy of good versus evil. We have good, evil. Seems like good could always stamp out evil, but in all situations, evil is never completely stamped out, right? So we have the man who's banished from the garden. Evil still exists in the world, maybe in lesser form. And then we also have Flint and Sapling. Yeah, Flint got into a fight with him, but by the time it's over, Flint still exists. So I think that's a really interesting question to ask yourself. Why does evil get stamped on but not stamped out? So after we talk about good and evil, we need to look at punishment. So two things that I thought were really, really interesting were the punishment of women and the punishment of curiosity. In both stories, we see two curious women who are punished. Number one, Sky Woman, she's looking through the tree hole. That's when she gets pushed down, almost as if she were being punished for her curiosity by getting kicked down to Earth, or the Earth before it was made. Number two, we have Eve, who eats from the tree of knowledge, right? Even though God says, don't do it, Eve, she does it. But I think it's really, really interesting that it was the tree of knowledge. So it was her curiosity that kind of fueled her to eat that apple. So, leaves me with two questions. Why are women always the perpetrators of good and evil? Or of evil, excuse me. And number two, why is curiosity such a bad thing? We see that in both stories. These curious women are the ones who get portrayed as evil. And so I think that's really, really interesting and has very, very long implications when thinking and looking at religion. Lastly, we see two gods who really want to be obeyed. Number one, Skyman. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like Sky Woman did something that made him mad, right? I mean, it says so. So he wants to be obeyed. Maybe he doesn't want his wife to get pregnant. Maybe he doesn't want her looking through the tree hole. Either way, she does both of them. And so he gets mad and he punishes her, right? So basically, this is a God who gets angry when he's disobeyed. Same thing happens in the Abrahamic story. We have God who gets angry at Adam and Eve when they eat from the tree. He told him not to. And so, I just think that's really, really interesting that we have these expectations from these gods, this expectation of obedience. And as soon as they're not obeyed, they banish people. Also, fabulous. How is it that banishment is the punishment in both cases? I think that is just fascinating and tragic and lovely. I don't have a clue, but think about it. Okay, so that's that for today. I probably will put another one up next Monday or Tuesday for Cotton Mather and Thomas Harriot and John Smith. So, happy reading. Also, don't worry too much about your reader responses. We'll get those taken care of. I'm going to start grading them in just a second. So, thank you for listening and have a great day.